All the respected dignitaries and guests, please turn on your video. And all the students, please make sure your microphone is in mute. Thank you.
Sir. Good evening, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir, your mic is muted, sir. Mic mute, sir.
Good evening, Srinivas sir. Good evening, all of you.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Shall we start the program, sir?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
sir. Ma'am, Tenmari ma'am, you can start.
Good evening. A quote by George Washington goes like this: agriculture is the most healthful, most useful, the most noble employment of man. Starting today, we are going to understand the noble profession in a deeper sense. Let's commence this event with the blessings of the Almighty.
Gamada niramada mama gamada nisa nisada dani samarita sani sani sada nidamada mama gamada gari re gamadari gari sa அறிவிலே தெளிவு நெஞ்சிலே உறுதி அகத்திலே அன்பினோர் வெள்ளம் பொறிகளின் மீது தனிய பொழுதெல்லாம் பேரருளின் நெறியிலே நாட்டம் அருமயோகத்தில் நிலைத்திடன்றிவை அருளாய் குறி குணம் ஏதோ இளையாயனைத்தாய் குலவிட தனி பரம் பொருளே பாரம் பொருளே பாரம் பொருளே
Thank you. He is a mentor to many and serves as an example for all. I request Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar sir, Dean of Academics, Kogunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Kumar. A warm good evening to everybody who have gathered here for this international colloquium on revisiting Indian traditional agriculture, a contemplation, which is organized by the Department of Botany and the Department of Biotechnology. As we look back 49 years ago, we see ourselves as a very small organization set up in a very rustic area, rural area, but with a very deep sense and commitment of serving and uplifting the farming community by providing quality education and research to them. Today, this Kalpavriksha has been a pedestal for many such students who have achieved phenomenal success in their life. And we are standing on the eve of the 50th year of this legendary institution. And this is a very proud moment because on the eve of the 50th year of this legendary institution's establishment, we are again revisiting the traditional agricultural systems which were long back 100% successful one. And this conference is organized as a prelude to the 50 years of existence of this institution. At the outset, it is my privilege, honor, and pride to welcome the president of this great institution, Dr. M. Aruchami, and our beloved secretary, Madam Dr. C.A. Vasiki, Madam. Madam has a small emergency here, so she has not joined us virtually today, but she has sent all the wishes and greetings for the successful conduct of this program. So I welcome both of them and seek their blessings for all the remaining 6 days of deliberations which we are going to have. I am doubly honored to welcome the most dynamic and the notable leader of this region, Professor Dr. P. Kaliraj, Vice Chancellor of Bharatiya University. Sir has phenomenally contributed in the development, refinement, and sophistication of several educational aspects in this region of Coimbatore. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome the most dynamic, the vibrant member secretary of Tamil Nadu State Council of Science and Technology, Dr. Srinivasan. Sir has been pivotal in implementing several important science and technology innovations and also several such programs in the district in the state of Tamil Nadu. On behalf of the management, it's my pleasure to welcome you, sir. I accord a very sincere and affable welcome to the principal, Dr. M. Lakshman Swami, sir, who is going to preside over this function. Sir is again my guru, and sir has taught me all the beginnings of biotechnology from this great institution. I welcome you, sir. I also accord a warm welcome to the deans of various schools from the department, from the institution, the HODs of various departments, and the team of faculty members who have been a great pillar of support in organizing this wonderful program. I also extend an affable welcome to the resource persons of the first day, Dr. Sindhu from IARI in New Delhi, and also Dr. Valliyappan, whom I know him for several years, and he has been a successful floriculturist and an entrepreneur of this region. Welcome you, sirs. I extend a warm welcome to all the non-teaching faculty who have been supportive in organizing this function. Last but not the least, the beneficiaries of this program, the students and participants from our institution and other institution. I extend a warm welcome to all of you, and I hope this session or this program will give you a lot of inputs to really revisit into traditional Indian system of agriculture, which we have been practicing right from the Vedic times. And I wish the program a grand success, and I welcome once again, offer my heartfelt welcome to all present here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The person who is the motivational factor for us and a spirit of perfection. He keeps our sense of duty from waning. Our principal, Dr. M. Lakshmana Swami, sir. I request sir to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you, Madan. Good evening, one and all present here. Most respected Secretary and Syndicate Member of Bharatiya University, Dr. C. Vasi Madam, and Professor P. Kaliraj Sir, Vice Chancellor Bharatiya University, and today resource person, Dr. R. Srinivasan Sir, Member Secretary, Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, Chennai, Dr. S. N. Madan Shankar, Dean Academics, other resource persons, faculty members, research scholars, PG and UG students, welcome you all for this international colloquium on revisiting Indian traditional agriculture and contemplation from 28 October to 5th 11/21, jointly organized by Department of Botany and the Department of Biotechnology, Konkan Arts and Science College. On behalf of the management, welcome all for this program. Konkan Arts and Science College started with the pre-university course in the year 1973, has grown tremendously in academic stature and is now offering 24 UG and 11 PG courses and 13 research programs. The college has also blossomed into full-fledged research institute offering MPhil and PhD in 13 disciplines. At present, 4,500 students are studying, around research scholars around 300, and among the total students, women population is around 60%. Our college has the distinction of having 148 PhDs among the total number of 211 teaching faculty. Our college management has arranged insurance coverage under Group Personal Accident Insurance Scheme, which covers both students and their parents of both aided and self-financed streams. The college has been re-accredited with A+ grade by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council (NAC) in the fourth cycle. In the year 2019, our college has been approved with the financial allocation of rupees 30 lakhs as mentor institution by UGC under the scheme of Parmas for mentoring NAC accreditation aspirant institution to promote quality assurance in higher education. The Department of Science and Technology, DST, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India has granted financial assistance to the tune of rupees 80 lakhs to the college in the year 2014 under this program and rupees 1.5 crores sanctioned in the year 2021. The Department of Biotechnology, Government of India has supported the financial assistance to a tune of rupees 77 lakhs to this college under Star College scheme in the year 2021. The college has positioned in 36th in NIRF ranking 2021 and categorized under Band A institution 6 to 25 category in ARIA 2020 ranking process. The Ministry of Education's Institution Innovation Council 2.0 has conferred 5 stars in recognition of the entrepreneurial activities of the institution. The institution is recognized as Nodal Center CI Yuva Young Indian Coimbatore chapter for capacity building, leadership training, and entrepreneurial training programs. Our institution is recognized social entrepreneurship, Swachhata and rural engagement cell, institution by Mahatma Gandhi National Council for Rural Education, Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Education, and Government of India. So, with this introduction, coming to the subject, I don't want to take much of your time because I am also eagerly waiting for our Vice Chancellor speech. Only the 5 difference between the traditional and the modern methods of farming. The traditional method is it is a old methods of farming, and modern is it is a new and scientific method of farming. The rate of production is low, whereas the rate of production is high in the modern method of agriculture. And this method of farming is environment eco-friendly. The traditional method of agriculture farming is eco-friendly, whereas the modern method is not an eco-friendly. Bullock carts and other wooden tools equipments are used in the traditional methods of agriculture, whereas in the modern strategy, we are using tractors and other advanced tools are used. And finally, the traditional method of farming natural manure is used as a fertilizer, whereas in the modern agriculture farming, chemical fertilizers and pesticides are used. With this few introduction, I thank you for the opportunity given to me. I wish the program a grand success. Thank you, one and all.
I'd like to invite a person right now. He is a biochemist and immunotechnologist with specialized certifications from USA. In 1981, he rose to the level of officiating Vice Chancellor of Anna University. He recently received the J.C. Bose Memorial Award for his contribution in the field of science. He has guided 42 PhD scholars and has 3 patents to his credit. He is the author of various textbooks. In his profound experience as a member of various government departments, statutory bodies, and state and international level, Professor and Director of Center for Biotechnology, Dean of AZ Tech Campus, and officiating Vice Chancellor of Anna University. He transferred his expertise to spanning the credentials of Bharatiya University. Under his directions, the university has achieved 13th rank in the universities category and the 21st in overall category by NIRF and stepped into global rankings of Shanghai and Times Higher Education. His vision to bring about a disruptive change in the manner of education and evaluation is implemented and is setting new grounds for and about to be revamped unconventional examination systems that envisages the application side of education. Mere words wouldn't suffice to explain his achievements. He is none other than Professor Dr. Kaliraj Sir, Vice Chancellor, Bharathiar University, Coimbatore. Sir, I request you to deliver the inaugural address.
Respected Dr. R. Srinivasan, Honorable Member Secretary of Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, respected Speaker of the Day, Dr. K. Valliyappan, and Speaker Dr. S.S. Sindhu from Pusa campus, and the organizers of the program from Kongu Nadu Arts and Science College, the principal, then Secretary Madam, Dr. Madan, and other faculty members and students of Kongu Nadu Arts and Science College and autonomous institutions who are performing very well, both in the academic aspect and also in the ranking. This year, Bharathiar University, we got 14th position in the NIRF ranking. I am more happy for many of our affiliated colleges and autonomous colleges. They have competed with the region. So Coimbatore region is the one we have the maximum number of institutions. About 16 institutions had the NIRF ranking less than 200, and I am very happy for that. And Kongu Nadu Arts and Science College is one of them. And Dr. Vasigi Madam, the secretary of this college, is our syndicate member, providing the valuable information for running the institutions in the best possible manner. I am thankful to the organizers for giving the opportunity to join with you for this international colloquium on revisiting Indian traditional agriculture, a contemplation 2021. For a long time, with the result of the Green Revolution and all those things, with the growth of the country, including the population, people were very much interested to see the yield. They went for various methods. But now we are coming back to our original thing because there is a need for the health, which is related to the food is very, very important. So we come for the traditional, cultivation. So Indian traditional culture, agriculture, is an important topic of the day. You might have seen people started asking for the traditional rice instead of going for the conventional one, with the result of various other combination with fertilizers and all. So you all know about the best practices that have been taken place in our country for more than 2000 years, like double cropping, mixed cropping, intercropping, crop rotation, agroforestry, use of local varieties, traditional organic composting, and integrated crop animal farming. So the advantages of the traditional practices are, there are several. To name few, improved soil fertility, carbon sequestration, maintaining the rural communities, resource utilization, and more than that, biodiversity maintenance and sustaining livelihood. The several studies indicate that traditional agriculture practices have better performance than modern agriculture to achieve the goal of agricultural sustainability towards changing climate. The traditional agricultural practices also protect the agro ecosystem from the detrimental effect of chemical pesticide contamination, mechanical cultivation, etc. The major advantages in traditional farming methods are relatively low yield, which is a result in the lack of scientific consideration. So this is the right time for us to talk about that, to find out the ways and means for improving the yield of the traditional farming. Then labor intensive, which starts from the seed sowing, manual weeding, post-harvest process, grain threshing and milling. A cost-effective technology needs to be developed. So this kind of webinar will be able to create the knowledge to our faculty members and students who are interested in farming, etc., to look for the better way of the maintaining the traditional farming. So what is the need of the, there are several things, and we are having a large number of experts who are going to talk about that. The fusion of traditional and advanced technologies for sustainable farming is very important. The knowledge related to the quantitative effect of plants and agriculture based on the local geography and climate is not properly documented in most part of India, and we have to look for that. For better conservation of this traditional knowledge, documentation and public awareness are needed at both national as well as global level. The traditional crop diversity remains largely unexplored at the molecular mechanisms level. And the program that you have organized now from 28 to 28 and 21 to 5/11/2021, I think during the Diwali time also you are going to have this webinar. And the most appreciable thing is you have covered almost everything related to that. The floriculture as a business, then floriculture and landscaping, and organic farming and traditional food, organic farming in various other areas, genetic diversity, then aquaculture related one, and the entrepreneurial opportunities, and also with oral papers for our students and other faculty members. I am very confident this program will be very much useful to you. I would like to thank Dr. R. Srinivasan, who is contributing a lot for government means in Tamil Nadu, especially to train the students, because they have a very popular program. The faculty members, they can get the grant from so many places, DST, DBT, a lot of avenues are there. But the students are having very limited avenue, and their ambition will be great, but only the local environment will be able to understand them. He is doing very well. And also the grant to the faculty members. More than that, the awards given by the Tamil Nadu State Council is highly competitive, unbiased, and people are very much proud to say that they received the award. I have not received award from this organization, but I was the chief guest for giving the award to the recipients when I was the Vice Chancellor of Anna University. And I received award from other agencies, but even now I have the feeling that I should have applied for any one of the award of Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, because it is very prestigious one. Two of our faculty members, they received the award last year, and I would like to thank him, and also other plenary speakers, Dr. K. Valliyappan, Dr. S.S. Sindhu, especially he is from the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, the head and division of floriculture and landscaping, and very, very impressive campus in Delhi, that is the POSA campus, and it will be really useful to all the students and faculty members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker has 32 years of wide-ranging experience, which includes 26 years in the government departments and 6 years in industry. He is a member of American Chemical Society, fellow of Indian Chemical Society, Kolkata. He is also a life member in Madras Science Association, He is a member of Tamil Nadu Astronomy Association, Museum Association of India, and member of International Committee on Museum, that is INC-ICOM Paris. He was the coordinator for the implementation of INSPIRE, an innovation in science pursuit for inspired research, an award program in Tamil Nadu, which the financial assistance of Department of Science and Technology. So for nearly 78,000 students got INSPIRE award at rupees 5,000 each. And he is actively and continuously conducting the mobile science exhibition in rural areas in various districts. He took charge as Member Secretary Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology on February 2017. Under his guidance and popularization of science and research activities are emerging in Tamil Nadu through availing financial support from various agencies. He is Dr. R. Srinivasan, Member Secretary, Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, Chennai. Sir, I invite you for delivering the inaugural address.
Good evening to all. Respected Professor P. Kaliraj, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. Respected Dr. K. Valliyappan, Technical Director, Alagus Flower Valley. Respected Dr. S.S. Sindhu, Pusha Campus, New Delhi. Dear friend Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar, Dean Academics. A vibrant principal, Dr. M. Lakshmana Swamy of Kongunadu Arts and Science College. Friend Dr. K. Tenmoli, Assistant Professor and Head Department of Botany. Various deans and Head of the Department, learner faculty members, dear participants, good evening to all. Today really I am happy, double more happy. I am with the great, our vibrant Vice Chancellor of Bharatiyar University. Because last week, 2 weeks back, he has given a very good interactive session for DST collaborative program that is under resource development, that is resource development on the theme. He has given a nice talk, and always he is very selfish when compete with other universities. He wants to become number one. At the same way, though he is from Chennai, now he is shifted to Coimbatore. He is always proud of Coimbatore because the college like Kongunadu Arts and Science College and other colleges, they are all nearly more than 16 colleges are in the NIR of ranking below 200. That is also because of his collaboration. In coming years, it will be more and more. And as far as our Kongunadu Arts and Science College is concerned, it is reaccredited with NAC with A+ grade, 4th cycle, and NIR of ranking that is also 36 in all India level, and UGC College of Excellence, and they are having, as rightly pointed out our Vice Chancellor, they are having lot of not only academic but also for entrepreneurship development, research activities, etc. Really, I am very happy to deliver some special address in this great international colloquium on revisiting Indian traditional agriculture, a contemplation. Before starting this, I want to tell one thing. As rightly pointed out our Vice Chancellor, whenever I am going, I am proudly telling our Bharatiyar University Vice Chancellor is also our Tansawadi. But he has given the awards that today only I could understand, because overall I thought he got our award, because wherever Vice Chancellor I am seeing in Tamil Nadu, our Tansawadies are there. Even in other universities, they are all have this award. Definitely, I think in coming year, he will get many more awards, not only with the TANS award, but also with even he is eligible for even Nobel laureate level, because he is doing lot of, you see, biotechnology means even whatever I have written for today's conference, most of the things are covered because You see, even in mind, whatever in my mind, he just reflect everything, so that he is a man of excellence, and he is also, when he was in vice chancellor of Anna University, he has done a lot of good things to cope up with the system. That is also very important. The same way he is taking up so many activities in his university. And now, traditional agricultural practices have been an integral part of food production in India since ages, which involves farming with the intensive use of indigenous knowledge, traditional tools, natural resources, organic fertilizer, cultural beliefs of the farmers. ஏரினும் நன்றால் எருவிடுதல் கட்டபின் நீரினும் நன்றதன் காப்பு. These traditional practices have been rightly illustrated and praised in Tirukkural, and we can find plenty of references on ancient practices and their benefits in our Tamil literature. Also, the prosperity and abundance of natural resources in the past can be realized through such literatures. Organic compost based livestock, integrated agroforestry based, mixed overcropping based, and crop rotation based agricultural practices in India, which have to be strengthened in view of the environment and food security. There are lots of environmental impacts of the traditional way of agriculture. This can ensure the prevention of environmental issues such as depletion of nutrients, deforestation, soil erosion, soil pollution, water pollution, etc. In the present trend, consumers are highly preferring products obtaining from traditional practices such as organic farming. Hence, there is a huge market demand too. This is the need of the hour for our country to realize, encourage, and promote traditional agricultural practices. It is crucial to take appropriate steps to implement such practices integrated with the modern skills and knowledge by means of innovative approaches in academic research and development. As far as this vermicompost, now recently everywhere we can see it, vermicompost, organic manure, all those things. I just want to recollect my earlier, when I was studying in high school level, whenever I go to my field, that is agriculture field, I think even in Tamil also I can tell. அங்கே போய் தண்ணி எடுத்து தண்ணி மோட்டார்ல இருந்தோ இல்லை ஏரியில இருந்தோ தண்ணி வந்துகிட்டு இருக்கோம். நம்ம எல்லாம் தண்ணியில அப்படியே வாய்க்கால் வழியா தண்ணி போயிட்டு இருக்கோம். அப்ப உள்ள போய் நம்ம திருப்பி விடுறதுக்கு மண்வெட்டி எடுத்து அந்த மண்ணை வெட்டி உள்ள அந்த வாய்க்கால்ல இருந்து குறுக்க வெட்டி உள்ள அனுப்புவாங்க, ஒவ்வொரு பாத்தியா கட்டி, ஈவன் பருத்தி நெல் எதுக்கு இருந்தாலும். அப்போ ஒரு இஃப் யூ டேக் ஒன் சார்ட் ஆஃப் மண்வெட்டி, தட் இஸ் ஒன் ஸ்மால், if you want to take soil from that, you have to cut the soil. At the time you can see the plenty of earthworm. Some few earthworm has been cut by 2 or 3 pieces. You can see the plenty. Now if you go to the same field, you cannot find that particular that is earthworm. That is the difference you can find. Now we have to create artificially all the vermicompost, everything. That is the tradition. Now the difference we can find, how we have to improve like that. As rightly pointed out the earlier speaker, the Madan Shankar was also telling modernization. That is, modernization is required now because of skill development, because of people are not getting, we are not getting proper people to take up the work. The modernization is very important, but at the same time, the traditional way of taking up the agriculture is very important. I think for the next few days, that is nearly 1 week, they are going to talk about in this international colloquium. They will bring some interesting thing. And as far as our council is concerned, rightly pointed out our vice chancellor, for students, we want more and more programs. Really, we have a lot of programs. This year, we are going to sanction not less than 1,000 student projects award. That is already we have planned, and we are going to give. The result will be announced in another maximum of 2-3 weeks, sir. Not less than 1,000 student project award. This will definitely enrich not only the individual but academic institutions, definitely our Tamil Nadu. We are all talking about startup and entrepreneurship development. Definitely we should cultivate the research attitude to the student community, even in rural people, rural students. Everybody should take up this task, and definitely it will be helpful to you. And one more thing also I can tell, we are also approaching our DST. It is some due is there. If the fund is coming, it will increase further. Definitely from this year onwards, not less than 1,000 projects. Sir. Like that, we are having nearly 18 academic programs. I don't want to go into detail because we are waiting for other two dignitaries here. For the benefit of scientists, researchers, students, farmers, self-help group members, fishermen, unemployed youth, and public. The schemes of the council enable ideation and consumption, formulation of hypotheses, experimentation to test the idea, and finally come out with a successful product process. It is specially directed towards location-specific problems and issues of our state. State Council is taking care of IPR activities in the state through Patent Information Center. I think because our IPR cell is also functioning with Bharatiyar University, they are also doing lot of patent activities. Definitely next year, if you see our Tamil Nadu, the patent number will be more, and definitely in another 1 year, the GI also we will be in a #1 position. That is very important. Whatever program we are taking up, all the institutions, our Tamil Nadu should be a #1. And very specifically, overall, the science organization of our state have been making lot of efforts to promotion of science and technology among the people of Tamil Nadu. We have to focus on policies and programs which encourages forced translation of technologies developed from labs should be prioritized and supported so that it reach the beneficiaries. That is lab to land technology, that the concept should be visualized everywhere. The incubation period for any research idea to be tried and tested with experiments need to be faster so that the results in the form of process, product are obtained at the earliest and suitably deployed in relevant sectors such as agriculture, industry, in the community and elsewhere. Preference should be given to location-specific projects and programs which addresses the local needs through S&D interventions, particularly in the area of water, renewable energy, agriculture, veterinary, poultry, fisheries, health, education, environment, traditional skills and entrepreneurship, etc. The S&D ecosystem in higher educational and research institutions, particularly in universities and colleges, need to be regenerated and financially supported. Industry, academia, research partnerships should be encouraged to address local issues, societal problems. Ways and means may be formulated for promoting innovative products and the commercialization of national and global level. The investment in science and technology sector in our country need to be raised to compete with developed economies. At present, most of the investment in S&D is made by the government. To raise the investment in S&D to a desirable level, private participation is important. Therefore, suitable policies and incentive measures may be provided to encourage private investment in S&D sector while simultaneously raising the investment made by the government. And also technology development, technology demonstration center is very important. There is a need for a technology demonstration center to act as a knowledge center for technology transfer. The function of the technology demonstration center will be to have a compendium of all technologies developed and ready for demonstration, dissemination of information on these technologies through interaction programs to be organized at the district and the panchayat level, to play a catalytic role in implementing demonstration projects suitably for local requirements in specific geographical areas. It is necessary that technology demonstration center must act as a need-based supporting mechanism and avoid being a feeder of available technologies for mere demonstration purpose. The scope should be limited to aiding the local beneficiary by providing relevant S&D inputs that would lead to improved economic status through effective use of appropriate science and technology inputs. Need-based technology demonstration centers are to be established for effective technology transfer throughout our country. I think our Vice Chancellor definitely take up some serious steps, and also the skill Vigyan is going to sanction by DBT. Definitely in this your region, we can take it up very systematically. I think it is. I'm expecting very soon, sir. And thank you very much for the organizers to have this such a wonderful international conference. Definitely, this will give you a very good way for take further ahead of our nation. Our Coimbatore region should be a certain example for development of this task. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I now request Dr. P. Sumati Madam to introduce our guest speaker.
A warm good evening to one and all gathered here. It's an immense pleasure for me to invite and introduce our chief guest, Dr. S.S. Sindhu sir. Sir is specialized in the field of commercial floriculture, ornamental horticulture, turf, breeding of lilium, landscaping and arboriculture and protected cultivation. Sir did his MSc in GP Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Nainital, Uttar Pradesh, and PhD in Haryana Agricultural University, sir. In this year, 1990, Sir joined in the ICAR. Sir has guided 6 MSc and 8 PhD candidates. His faculty disciplines in the field of floriculture and landscape architecture. Sir has developed various technologies, varieties, and methodologies in the flower varieties of rose, lilium, marigold, chrysanthemum, and gladiolus, and he has received patent. For a period of 3 months, Sir has undergone fellowships under International Collaborative Exchange Program of the Scientists with Foreign Academics for Japan. Sir is a fellow of the National Academy of Horticultural Sciences. Sir has been awarded Anna Sahib Sinte National Leaders Freedom Fighters Memorial Award in the year 2009. Sir is a fellow of the Indian Society of Ornamental Horticultural, outstanding research in the field of floriculture and landscaping. For his outstanding work in the field of floriculture and landscaping, Sir has received JSIL Fellowship. In the year 2015, Sir published a book on ornamental horticulture. Sir has published articles in the various journals with NAAS rating 6 and above. With this brief introduction, I invite you now, sir, to deliver your talk. Please, sir.
Sir, unmute your mic, sir.
Sir, your mic is muted, sir.
Dr. Madan Kumar, I am having another meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Thank you
Vice
so
Chancellor,
much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, Dr. Sindhu, your mic is muted, sir. Sir, we are unable to hear you.
it is not mic problem, some other problem it seems.
Okay.
You call him over phone,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
explain him,
Yes, sir.
then ask the next speaker to, speak until the
Okay.
problem is solved.
Yes, sir. Sure, sure. Yes, sir. Sir? Sindhu, sir? Sir, we are unable to hear you. I think there's a problem with your microphone. Sir, yes, it's audible now.
Are you hearing me, Dr.
Hanji, it's audible. We can start.
Okay, sir. And
Your PPT is also visible. Yes.
screen is visible.
Screen is also visible. You can start.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Now it's a full screen, Doctor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is full screen. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'm really very sorry for the inconvenience that has caused, and we lost some 5-10 minutes. But I'm very happy to listen, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Kaliraj, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore, and the Member Secretary Dr. Srinivasan, Tamil Nadu State Agriculture University, and Dr. Madan Shankar. Madan Shankar has given me the opportunity to be a speaker on this evening among all of you, and he is the Dean Academic and the convener of the program. I am happy and delighted to be here, though today actually I have already spoken to the convener. I was on the tour and I was traveling from Chandigarh to Delhi right now. But on the way, I have made some arrangement to make a presentation for not for a high time, but I will take some half an hour, and I will draw the attention of all the audience and delegates towards the modern agriculture. And already that Professor Kaliraj has spoken very well, and Dr. Srinivasan has also spoken in depth regarding the development of the rural Tamil Nadu particularly, or the rural India. So we have been traveling right from the traditional agriculture to modern agriculture, and way back, if we go during the 1960, that our green revolution has taken place in our country, and earlier we were again food to bowl, but now that we are self-sufficient in the food production, and subsequently the white revolution and blue revolution, fish culture and golden revolution, that era has also seen, and during the many changes phases of the country, now there is a time for the rainbow revolution, that too era of National Horticulture Mission. So right from the traditional agriculture, we have traveled a lot over a period of maybe 30-40 years. And now we are dealing with the modern agriculture, particularly the horticulture. And among the horticulture, the floriculture is one of the major important sector, which is considered to be a cash crop, and people are growing lot of flowers and lot of even high tech vegetable are also being grown subsequently, and in vice versa in the greenhouse and protected cultivation. So I am Dr. Sindhu, already spoken very well about me, and I am presenting head of the department at IRA New Delhi. And Professor Kaliraj has spoken that Pusa campus is quite old campus, more than 115-year-old, and we are offering MSc and PhD degree, and I am very close association with the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, very frequently visiting there as an expert, as well as the some selection committee expert and kind of things. So it's a great pleasure and honor to speak a few important points about the Indian floriculture particularly. The people are now coming forward and they are taking as a floriculture as one of their very lucrative business. So it's a most sought commercial activity, and way back, if we speak about 1965, the area under floriculture crops was only 3,500 hectare. Now we have crossed the 3 lakhs hectare area. So you can just imagine where we were and where we are today. So this is the kind of the development has taken place, and our honorable Prime Minister also speaking at various platform for the doubling of the farmer income. So horticulture, and among the horticulture, this floriculture is one of the way forward activity where we can make the income of the farmers not only the double, even maybe triple or 4 times or 5 times we can earn from a small piece of land, from where we cannot earn much of by growing the wheat and the rice. And the MIDH now, this National Horticulture Mission, now it is known as MIDH, Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture, has given the new dimension in the growth and development of the floriculture. And a lot of varieties and lot of production technology have been utilized. Not only that IRI New Delhi, from where I belong to, but even the many state agriculture university, including the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, has played a very vital role in the development of the floriculture. So this is in brief about the spectrum of the Indian floriculture cluster, whereas the market are located from east to Calcutta, west to Bombay, and north to Delhi, and south to Bangalore. So all these flowers are being scattered during these 4 major markets in the country. So the floriculture, the roses is number 1. Everybody knows that flowers known for roses, and the high value lilium being shown here in the picture. These are also being grown in the greenhouse as well as in the net house, and it is being consumed domestically as well as it is also being exported, and we are earning a lot of foreign exchange out of it. So gladiolus is also one of the major floriculture crops which is being grown in the open as well as in the protected structure also. And the Ooty and particularly this Nilgiri hills of the Tamil Nadu is one of the major places where the lot of lilium and kind of the bulbs of the gladiolus, tulip, and this kind of planting material is being grown very successfully, and that place is very, very suitable for multiplying this planting material. And there is a very hue and cry of the planting material nowadays. This quality planting material is a major drawback that people are not getting. But even though efforts are being put up forward, and we are also developing many variety and multiplying at our institute, at Pusa Institute, known as IRI, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, one of the very premier institute of ICR, where long back to it was established in 1905 at Pusa, Bihar. Later on, it was shifted due to the earthquake at Delhi during 1935. So since then, we are offering MSc and PhD degree, and at the same time, we are doing kind of the research activity, and some of the recent hybrid which have been developed by my own department. These are being shown here. This Pusa Shanti white one recently released Honorable the President of the India in one of the convocation, and these are also the field view of the gladiolus variety, which is known as major cut flower of the Indian floriculture. So it can also be grown in the protected structure, I mean using the drip irrigation system as well as using the mulch, and it is also being covered in the Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture, and this mission is offering the state level subsidy to the growers, and they are promoting under this. So this kind of many variety have been released. Pusa Sinduri is also there, and another many variety like Pusa Kiran, white color, Shubham, yellow, and Unnati. These have also been evolved from this institute. And we are offering this planting material to many of the universities as well as the different agri center, All India Coordinated Center. Pusa Manmohak, Valentine, these are very, very premium product recently released from IRI, and in people, the farmers are also getting it. And the first kind of the breakthrough we have made also in the Pusa lily. Lily is also one of the very high value flower considered, and the one sticks being sold in the market some 50 rupees or 60 rupees. And the first kind of the variety we have recently released, the Pusa Lily 1. So this is also a very high value flower, and this Nilgiri Hills and particularly the Ooty area, this is the most suitable for this growing of this kind of Lilium hybrid. So it can be commercially grown, and bulb can also be propagated, and particularly the comparatively the low temperature. Also, most of the most suitable place, particularly the Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, the Kulu, Manali area, this kind of belt and Nilgiri in Tamil Nadu, these are the most suitable places where we can go for the seed production activity of the various high value flowers as well as the bulbs. So these are the some kind of the pictures. I have already covered this Lahore Spiti area, and these bulbs are being grown in many such places, and it is being shown. And another, this very lucrative business for our young youth and the girls, particularly those who are opting this floriculture business as a venture. Not only the qualified MSc and PhD students are getting into this business, even many of the MBAs, many of the engineers, many of the doctors, they have also opted this floriculture business on a large scale, and they are involved in this business in a very large scale. And this tissue culture laboratory they have also established in the nook and corner of the country, and they are running a very good business in crores of rupees. And orchid is also another major high value flowers which can not only be grown in the northeastern part of the country, even in Tamil Nadu, even in Kerala, and in many other places like Himachal Pradesh and many other places this can also be grown. Then another is most important is roses, and Ooty is also known for roses, and IRA is also known for roses. So roses is also one of the another major flower crop which have an ample scope not only in taking the glucon and even the rose oil, even for making the rose water and the different kind of the product and for the garden display. The roses are being liked everywhere. So many such good variety have been evolved from IRI, then by Dr. P.P. Pal, the first Director General and first Director of IRI. So 50 years before. So even we are taking their legacy forward, and recently this Pusa Mehak, one of the outstanding fragrant variety we have released just last year only. So likewise, the another variety is Pusa Stabdi, Pusa Ajay. These are also been evolved from IRI, right, from our own department. Pusa Mohit and Pusa Komal, these are the thornless variety. There is a thorn in almost all the variety of roses, but these two variety doesn't have any thorn. So this recently, this Pusa Alpna has also been released during this year only, 21. And this is one of the outstanding fragrant variety, and it's a very floriferous, and it's being propagated through cutting only. So even the floriculture business, if you pick up the one thing, it's also having a very large volume. So likewise, the chrysanthemum, again the major crop where we can make a dent in the floriculture industry, and we can grow the different kind of the flowers, not only for the cut flowers, even for maybe the potted plant, maybe for garden. So all these such kind of variety, we have a large number of the germplasm, more than 100 strains we are maintaining, and we are offering to many of the state agriculture university and the colleges, not only for the cut flowers, even for the loose flower production at the farmer fields. So this is also one of the Pusa Sundari variety recently released during this year only, 2020-21 it has been released. So likewise, this Pusa is also known for many of the good number of variety of marigold. So we have evolved more than 5-7 varieties, and this Pusa Bahar is one of the outstanding variety released recently. And then other than this Pusa Bahar, we have the Pusa Deep, which coincide the flowering with the Dasara and Diwali. At that time, the farmers get a very high price, and they can have a very good livelihood within a very short time of the 60 to 90 days of the window. So we are doing such kind of activity in the seed production program at our regional station Karnal, as well as Delhi also. And apart from this, there are different kind of annual flowers which has a plenty of demand in the Middle East countries and many other European countries where the cost of production is very, very high. But here in India, the cost of production is very, very low. The labor is cheap and resources are available. And at the same time, we have the different kind of the climate. This time we have the winter, At the same time, we'll have the summer in the other part of the country. So this is the beauty where we have a ample scope for growing of promoting this floriculture business. Yellowstone area, again, a very new introduction, new crop. Carnation, again, it's a very tremendous and considered to be a cash crop for most of the people, those who are residing in the hilly area particularly, because this particular crop is very good, comes under the hilly condition. Then automatic overhead traveling system of the vegetable and the drip irrigation system. It's again a high investment, but at the same time, government is also promoting this kind of the projects, and we can also have this kind of the facility where we can grow the quality planting material, quality seedlings of the different, maybe a flowers or even maybe a high-tech vegetables. Even the other kind of the flowering plants like bougainvillea, so we can go for dwarf bougainvillea, some multi-grafted bougainvillea. So we can have many variety in the single plants, and we can fetch a very high, better price in thousands and thousands of rupees. These nursery people are selling, and there is a demand in the market. So at the same time, the landscaping has also having a very tremendous scope. Apart from this floriculture, just I will draw the attention of the house towards the landscaping. Landscaping is also considered to be a very lucrative business, and everywhere that everybody wants a good garden, good plants, and good aesthetic value in their house, in their offices. It has a wider opportunity, not only in the houses and in the offices, even in the corporate houses, hotel, golf courses, residential townships, lot of farmhouses, amusement. So these are coming up, and there is a heavy demand. And at the same time, that it have a very good social benefit, economic benefit. People are earning, and a lot of job opportunity are being offered during this landscape. Many manpowers are needed, and they get a livelihood out of it. And it provides aesthetic value, and not only enhance the tourism, but even it also protect our natural resources. So in the landscaping also, that first we go for planning, designing, then execution, then maintenance. So all kind of things are very much integrated to each other. So floriculture and landscaping is one of the very cohesive activity, and through which we can purify our environment and our climate and our house and offices, and different kind of air purified plant has also been notified by the NASA as being listed here. Different kind of pothos and peace lily, chlorophytum dracaena, and many kind of calla lilies. These are the one. And some of the recent new advances has also been made nowadays, that we are facing a lot of problems of concretization, and people are putting lot of civil work. So lot of tile, lot of pakka on the ground, and we don't have any this kacha area where we can grow the plant. So to substitute this kind of problems, that vertical garden has also been taking place, and along the metro in Delhi, not only in Delhi, even in Bombay and Bangalore also people are putting the vertical line, vertical garden. Even in the metro pillars, a lot of vertical things, a lot of plants in the vertical manner. These are being promoted, and this is also not only the outside, even the inside also. We can go for different kind of vertical gardens, and even the different airport also have been, renovated, and I had gotten a chance to associate it with the development of the Hyderabad airport. One time we have designed this kind of airport, and this it looks so beautiful and so appealing. So after the landscaping of this Hyderabad airport, the overview of the Hyderabad airport is like this. So then dwarfing technique has also been promoted, and offering the good opportunity for the peoples, and even the tree shifting. This is also one of the major nowadays the business, or a lot of people are engaging in this kind of activity. And the potted plant again have a tremendous scope during the Christmas, during the New Year, during the Dasara, Diwali, and many festive season. So the nursery business itself also speak very loudly, and it offer a very huge opportunity for the ready-made plants to plant it at one place overnight, and they fetch a very good opportunity to get money out of it. Then designing is again very, very important. Though we are offering a landscape designing in the floriculture and landscape architecture, And the CAD designing, we are offering CAD 2 and 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional, and through this various software we are making and teaching the students and making them to make a practice of this CAD designing by making the different design of the house, of the hospitals, schools, colleges, and kind of the different places, those who are under the development. So like this, these are the some grounds being shown here for the landscape purpose, which are ready for planting. And this is an overview of the Mughal Garden, Rashtrapati Bhavan. So earlier I had got an opportunity to serve there on deputation for 3-4 years during my this career, and we have also done a lot of activity in the landscaping there. So farmhouses and kind of the schools and the colleges, the different landscape also provide an ample opportunity for the students. So then at the same time, we can also go for the development, grass development, turf development. So green development, make your city green and clean by making through this green. So whether it is a normal soil or whether it is a landfill soil, it doesn't matter. But making an alteration, making an improvement in the soil and the water kind of things, then we can go for lush green town like this. So again, this roadside development and the road roundabout and the corners, again, very ample opportunity for doing this kind of landscaping and architecture, even in the society park, apartment park, and even the turf grasses maintenance, development at the golf courses throughout the country also provide an ample opportunity for the students as well as for those who are being engaged in this landscape business. Then these are kind of the activity one can go, and even they can engage in such kind of activity. And in the national level, this qualified this degree program, hardly a few universities. There are only 5 state horticulture universities in the country, and at the same time some 25 ICR institute, those who are doing some research and activity. And at the same time, some private institutes are also offering this kind of agriculture, BSc agriculture or MSc agriculture, MSc horticulture. I don't think this Bharatiya University has such kind of the program, but at the same time, it also I draw an attention that such kind of program should also be developed. And even the Skill Council of India is also offering diploma courses in the floriculture and landscaping. So these are some of the government schemes where one can go into a detail and can take a benefit out of it. One for which I have already spoken is one National Horticulture Mission, which is known as MIDS. Then National Horticulture Board of the Government of India is also again offering some 50-65% subsidy. And the Agriculture Skill Council of India also offering the skill in horticulture, as well as in the various other fields also, and some micro irrigation systems, state level schemes for promotion of horticulture. So all ICR Institute, Krishi Vigyan Kendras and State Agriculture University, they are also promoting research and development activity. And in addition to that, some of the private institute is also coming forward for offering the BSc horticulture, BSc agriculture, or MSc horticulture, or different kind of the diploma. So this is all about my presentation, and if some few questions are there, they can put up in the chat box, or otherwise I will take leave, Dr. Madan, for a while. But after leaving this program, I will again join on my mobile while traveling. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And sometime as and when I will be visiting this Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, I will definitely make a visit to your college. It's a great opportunity for me to share my thoughts over here. Thank you one and all, and special thanks to Dr. Kaliraj, Professor, the Vice Chancellor, and Srinivasan ji, Member Secretary of the State Science and Technology of Tamil Nadu State, and particularly Dr. Madan Shankar, convener, the Dean Academy of this program. Thank you one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. You are most welcome to our institution when you visit Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, sir.
Sure.
Please do come, sir. Thank you so much for your thought-provoking lecture on landscaping. Thank you, sir.
Yes, dear students, in case if you have any questions, you can You start posting your questions right now. You can even post it in the chat. Yes, dear students, anyone has any questions?
Ravi Kumar,
Yes, yes.
we can ask, because Dr. Sindhu has to leave. He's traveling. We can have the questions in the chat box, and we can share the questions to him.
All right.
And it can be reverted back to the students once he answers the questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. That was an electrifying session. Now I request Dr. B. Vishnupriya Madam to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to all. It is my great pleasure to introduce the chief guest of today's session, Dr. Valliyappan Kalayappa, sir, Director of Alagus Flower Valley, Vadavalli, Coimbatore. He has completed his doctorate in weed science at Annamalai University in the year 1991. He was a president at a Eureka Trading Private Limited, Coimbatore, and vice president in the Department of Horticulture, Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, Coimbatore, since the year of 2002 to 2009. He has served as a farm coordinator and a manager at Spic Agro Private Limited, Coimbatore, since 1991 to 2002. He worked as graduate teaching assistant, graduate research assistant, and a research scientist at Department of Botany, University of British Columbia, Canada, in the year 1983 to 85. He has published more than 30 research articles in national and international journals and published 2 book chapters. He is a member in various professional societies and advisory board. He has been working as a guest faculty in many institutions, notably Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, and PhD Krishnamal College for Women. He has been invited as a resource person in UGC Refresher Course Lecture Series on floriculture and many national and international seminars. We are very fortunate here to have such a great resource person with us. I request Dr. Valliyappan, sir, to take over the session. Sir, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am not sure if our Vice Chancellor, Bharathiar University, is still available with us. Dr. Srinivasan, Member Secretary, TNS CST. My co-presenter, Dr. S. Sindhu from IARI Pusa, New Delhi. Dr. Madan Shankar, faculty members and students of Kongu Nadu Arts and Science College. I'm happy to be a resource person for the topic given to me, floriculture as a business. The colloquium's main title, Revisiting Indian Traditional Agriculture, a Contemplation. I appreciate the word revisiting because floriculture does not fit into the term traditional agriculture. Revisiting would be good. And Dr. S. Sindhu has covered most of the floriculture aspects. I would so briefly go into different areas in floriculture. Floriculture is a specialized branch of horticulture. And horticulture in turn stems up from agriculture as the core science, which works around plant, soil, water, air continuum. Panchabhutas, if you want to go the traditional way. Indian floriculture has mainly concentrated so far on traditional flowers, which go for social purposes or religious purposes. These were listed out by my colleague, my predecessor from IARI as marigold and other tuberose and all that. In the period of 1980s, starting from 80s, we got into the greenhouse or polyhouse technology where floriculture and high-tech vegetable growing came into the picture. So I would start from there, limit my presentation to floriculture in India. That's point number one. Second, among the various cut flowers, I would concentrate on one particular cut flower, Lilium, in detail. I think that would give some sort of a perspective instead of going into all the areas of floriculture. Let me try to get this presentation through. Yeah, I hope you are able to see it on the screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So you can make it full screen, please.
Okay. Can we manage with this much?
I think it's fine. We can go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So this is basically a brief profile, not a very vast one. Indian floriculture, specific to India, and that is also specific to one particular flower, Lilium. Area and production of flowers, Dr. Sindhu has given the figure comparing 1965, 3,500 hectare to today's 3 lakh hectare. National Horticulture Board data says traditional flowers, what we have in India, 1,659,000 tons of loose flowers, and cut flowers are 484,000 tons. Cut flowers are not measured by weight, they are by number of stems. So we have 233,000, 2.33 lakh hectares of floriculture in India, and 70% of it is under traditional flowers, which are mainly marigold, tuberose, and all other things which go for the garlands and strings, and used in temples, churches, or mosques. Per year, consumption in metric tons is 1,07,29,000 metric tons. 30%, if you have 70% of the 233,000 hectares in floriculture, 70% under traditional flowers, 30% is under cut flowers. By cut flowers, we mean we cut the flower and use it at a florist shop or for flower arrangement or for a wedding, in gifts, bouquets, arrangements, and in weddings. Per year, 76.73 million stems is the production India has today. Under protected cover, it could be shade net or polythene or completely climate controlled greenhouses. It's 500 hectares. The compounded annual growth rate, CAGR, for the industry of floriculture is 15%. Until 2019, that was the scenario. So we had the pandemic and we can't use this 15% anymore. Go to the next slide. Top 4 traditional flowers. The first one is jasmine. Next one is marigold, which is Tagetes species. Chrysanthemum. Then tuberose. There are 2 types of tuberose. One is single, the other one is double. Single tuberose comes under traditional flowers. Double tuberose comes under cut flowers. Traditional flowers are used in garlands or strands for religious or social purposes. Wedding are part of our daily life. So those are traditional flowers. In the cut flower region, let me list out the milestones briefly. 1980, we had tuberose, double type, solidago, and asters. 1984, first Dutch rose project came up in Pune. 1985 to 92, there was a lot of gold rush. Everybody going in for rose greenhouses. Everybody growing red roses for Valentine's Day. Gerbera was the next crop, and carnation. This is 1985 to 92. 1992, we had brought Lilium bulbs from Holland via air transport. And also we started orchid projects in the country, including Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Northeast, and North. 1997, we had the first International Flora 97 at Bangalore. That was a major milestone. 1998, We imported lilium bulbs by sea, not by air, a container of lilium bulbs. And after that, container after container. We'll go into that in detail. And anthurium projects came up in a big way in coffee estates in Karnataka. In the year 2000, lilium, orchid, and anthurium. There is also a flower called heliconia, which is grown in Kerala. These are called high-value flowers based on per stem cost. Top 4 cut flowers in India. This is by production volume. First one is rose. Second, to the right of rose is gerbera. The lower row is carnation, first one, and the next one is gladiolus. High value cut flowers, I've just taken 3, where per stem value or per stick value is 35 rupees or euro 0.5 per stem, ex farm, not at the market, ex farm. For example, lilium can cost 35 rupees oriental at ex farm. In the market, it can cost about 45 or 50. Lilium is the bigger picture. Then we have orchid and anthurium. In lilium, India is going Dutch. I mean, going Dutch in the sense we take their bulbs for our planting. We import Dutch bulbs into India by sea. And the imports, I have the data only for 2013 to 15. It has been varying quite highly over a period, mainly because of euro value going up and down against. I don't think it has gone down except for one time, usually up. Bulb imports into India, consolidated data, 2013 to 2015, we have imported to the worth of US dollar 1.57 million for 2 years. It's about per year US dollar 728,000. That's a lot of foreign exchange outgo. And the supplier of bulbs 100% from Netherlands, otherwise called Holland. Where do these bulbs land up? Indian ports. Majority land up in Chennai. I've compared 2 years, financial years, 2013, 14, 14, 15. Mostly it's in Chennai port. And we have in Chennai 2 other ports coming up on the seashore, Kattupalli and one more, Ennore. Other than Mumbai, other than Chennai, we have Mumbai and Kolkata ports importing lilium bulbs in refrigerated containers under minus 0.15 degrees Celsius in dark conditions. India lily growing regions. I found out that Dr. Sindhu also put up a similar picture, so I'll be very brief about it. We call north, northeast, northwest, and east and northeast. These are zones. Then south zone, then west zone, Maharashtra side. Dr. Sindhu highlighted on the markets. I'm talking about the growing seasons which differ throughout the country. In summer, northwest, north, and northeast can grow lily. In summer, northwest, north, and northeast can grow lilium. In winter, central part of India, say Lucknow, for example, east, Kolkata side, West Bengal, then west, Maharashtra, Nashik, Sangli, Kolhapur, all those areas in the west, Pune. In southern plains, winter growing of lilium is quite possible. Southern plains, which includes Bangalore, Coimbatore. Year-round cultivation is possible only in the South Indian hills. Dr. Sindhu also made a reference twice to Nilgiri, Ooty, Kannur, and Kotagiri. In the whole of India, only Ooty, Kunnur, Kotagiri has the potential to grow lilium throughout the year. Lily bulb imports region-wise, northwest and northeastern India, 2.9 million bulbs imported in one financial year. Central and western parts of India, 2.82 million. Southern part of India, 10.96 million, mainly because southern part can grow throughout the year. The total bulbs imported 16.68 million. Number of lily bulbs imported into India varies, as we saw in the graph. Indian customs data, which shows financial year April to March, 2 Dutch crop years. We work on April to March as our financial year, whereas the Dutch, Holland country works January to December, as in US. So 2 financial years are covered in 1 Dutch crop year. So I have approximately collated the data, and it's about 15.18 million bulbs in 2014. Later it was 16, which we saw in the earlier slide. Crop 2010, that means crop harvested, bulbs harvested in 2010, imported into India in 2011, 18.48 million bulbs. This remains the highest so far until the pandemic set in. Lily types, Indian grower preferences, and changes over a period. Asiatic is one type, Asiatic lily. Examples are Elite, Dreamland, and Navona. The funny part is all these 3 varieties are extinct. They are not grown anymore. But these have been always the favorite of Indian growers. Oriental is the next type, which is very good for winter and for higher altitudes, 1,500 meters to 2,000 meters. Lilium Asiatic, LA hybrids are taking over Asiatics today. Asiatic varieties are coming down and Lilium Asiatic hybrids are going up. Oriental Tigrinum, OT hybrids are coming in, and that are very costly for Indian growers. 80% production cost is bulb cost in Lilium. The rest goes for other inputs like fertilizer, pesticides, labor. So inclusive of free on board FOB cost, 27% is added as imported costs. Bulb cost forms 80% of Lilium operational costs. Lily in India, varietal selection. Lower altitude or higher day and night temperature variation. This is called diurnal variation in academics. The difference between day temperature and night temperature. If that is within a range of 10 degrees Celsius, it's good for any crop, not only Lilium. So in lower altitude or higher day and night temperature, 60 to 75% Asiatics and LAs can be easily grown. 25 to 40% Orientals can be mixed. In higher altitude, where lower day temperature and night temperature prevails, 40 to 50% Asiatics and LAs and 50 to 60% Orientals can be grown. Asiatic and LA, yellow, white, and orange are the major colors, with some pink and red. In Oriental types, white and pink are major, with some yellow color varieties mixed. In India, lily bulb sizes used are generally 10 to 12 in Asiatics, 12-14 in others, in Asiatic type. In Lilium Asiatic type, minimum size used is 12-14 for early season, January to June planting, and July to December planting, it will be a bit higher, 14 to 16. In Orientals, 14-16 is the starting size. The higher the bulb size, the more the cost. So that is one thing that will pinch Indian growers. Orientals 1416 is for the early season, January to June. 1618 is the bulb size we use, July to December. OT, Oriental Tigrinum variety, is only for winter and it is only for higher altitudes. Minimum bulb size is 1618. Varietal selection, we prefer up-facing buds. The flowers should look up on our face. Casablanca was a failure in India. It's a variety of white Oriental which is glorified outside India, in Europe and North America. Casablanca was a failure in India because it's a droopy variety. If the flower doesn't look up on our face, we don't like it in India. Then we took up Crystal Blanca, which has lots of buds, but the bud size is smaller. So Mandaro is the variety ruling Oriental white variety today. Growing conditions, altitude 1500 meter is preferable. Media can be soil or coir pit. And roof has to be polythene with side covered by net. These are some of the other greenhouses which use coir pit as the growing media, altitude 1800 meter. I'm all showing pictures from Kunnur, Kotagiri and Ooty. Roof has polythene, side has also polythene because the temperature is quite low in night in winter. Post-harvest and marketing. Only excess in Indian market is exported. India consumes quite a lot of lilium, so there is very little left for exporting. When it is exported, year-round export is to West Asia, Dubai and Sharjah. July to August to New Zealand. And Orientals in pastel, soft colors are sent to Japan. The varieties are preferred are Lombardia and La Mancha. Import for peak days, we do import lilium in India in spite of having so much production and consuming most of it in India itself. We import for peak days like Ganpat in Mumbai from China and Indonesia. So there is more potential to grow lilium. Lilies in India cold chain is still an issue. The container which is loaded with lilium bulbs starts from Rotterdam port in Holland and it is plugged in the ship into an electric outlet to maintain minus 1.5 degrees Celsius throughout the sea voyage. Once it is landed in a port and the container is brought down to the port side from the seaside, it has to be plugged into an electric outlet. And from Chennai port or Mumbai port or Kolkata port, it has to be brought by either refrigerated truck or in a lorry with a 40 feet or 20 feet back, where the container is loaded as such as received from Holland. A generator is added to power the cooling system to maintain minus 1.5 degrees Celsius up to the farm gate. At the farm, cold stores are a must to keep the bulbs in dark as well as in minus 1.5 degrees Celsius. Similarly, plus 2 degrees is required for packing of flowers. I've come to the end of the talk. All is well that ends. Okay. Quickly, I'll run through a few highlights. Apart from the slides that were shown, floriculture projects with the Gerbera and carnation or rose, orchid, anthurium. In these projects, the planting material cost of the plant is calculated similar to greenhouse cost as a capital expense, one-time expense. Because these crops last for 2.5 to 3 years in the case of Gerbera or carnation, or 5 to 6 years in the case of rose, orchid, anthurium. In case of a lilium project, the planting material comes under recurring cost because 3 to 4 crops have to be raised in a year. It is not a capital cost. So it is calculated by auditors in detailed project reports by bankers under recurring cost, consumables. This means the grower has to be good in not only costing the input, but also financially good enough to afford and hold back at least 60% of the income from sale of flowers as seed money, so that he can plow it back for the next imported container. There is no other crop that will give a net profit as in lily. This is the highlight. Calculating ₹2 per bulb at the rate of 50 bulbs per square meter, 3 times or 3 crops an year, this works out to net profit of 12 lakhs per year per acre. No other crop can give this much net profit to the grower. Whatever said and done, organic farming or traditional farming, modern farming, polyhouse farming, net return or return on investment to the grower is the most important. Otherwise, no farming will take place. So floriculture has come in to play a very major role in 2 plantation crops. One is coffee, where anthurium plantations have come up in coffee estates. Second is tea, where lilium plantation has come up. I was told holding 1 acre of lily is equivalent to 100 acres of coffee, or 1 acre of lilium is equivalent to 150 acres of tea. This is in terms of labor usage, capital intensive project, and the income generated out of the project. The best part of lilium cultivation is that the inputs other than bulbs work out to only 10% of the annual expenses, like labor, pesticides. Lilium also has a waxy coating right from soil level up to the bud part. Bud is not coated with wax. So insect and disease problems are very minimum in lilium. Even if there are insects or diseases, they can be controlled by prophylactic measures. So supply chain management is very, very important in planning and coordinating the project. This is not a tax haven, especially in lilium, and the grower has to stay at the project site. I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, students, dear students, do you have any questions for Valliyappan sir? Please feel free to ask your questions. You can even type your questions in the chat.
Or they can unmute themselves and ask. I would love to answer the questions.
Yes, dear students, Valliyappan sir is waiting for your questions. So it seems all right. Yes.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed a highly informative session. It is now time to pull the curtains for the day, and I invite Dr. K. Tenmoli ma'am, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Botany, Kongunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, to deliver the vote of thanks.
A small act, when multiplied by millions of minds, can transform the world. A graceful and pleasant evening to one and all present here. I am very much humbled and privileged to propose vote of thanks to this distinguished and intellectually stimulating gathering on this 7 days international virtual colloquium on revisiting Indian agriculture, traditional agriculture, a contemplation RITAC 2020, jointly organized by the Department of Botany and Biotechnology, Kungnad Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. First and foremost, I record my deep sense of gratitude to our most esteemed President, Dr. M. Archami, sir, for his extensive support and inspiring mentorship. Thank you, sir. No conference can take its shape without a hardworking leader. With immense pleasure, I register my sincere and heartfelt thanks to our most respected Secretary and Director of our college, Dr. C.A. Vaski Madam, for providing excellent opportunity and logistic support towards organizing this great event in our prestigious institution. Her vision and able guidance in developing new research agenda at every point of time have once again framed into another success story. Thank you, Madam. With great pride and privilege, on behalf of the entire fraternity of our college and on my own behalf, I submit my sincere thanks and respectful regards to our most respected Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bardiyar University, Professor P. Kaliraj sir, for having generously accepted our invitation in spite of his busy schedule and sharing his words of wisdom to our participants. We are truly humbled for your valuable presence and gracing this occasion, sir. At this outset, I take immense opportunity to express my sincere thanks to Dr. R. Srinivasan sir, Member Secretary, TNSC ST. Campus, Chennai, who is a committed professional and instrumental in the success of various missions of research. Thank you, sir, for addressing the gathering and opening us new vistas of knowledge on traditional agriculture. I am very much delightful and fortunate to thank our enduring chief guest of today's session speakers, Dr. K. Valliyappan sir, Technical Director, Alagus Flower Valley, Coimbatore, and Dr. S.S. Sindhu sir, Head Division of Floriculture and Landscaping, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi, for sharing excellent sessions on floriculture and landscaping, narrating significance and career opportunities in the arena. I assure that your innovative ideas sharing sessions have certainly opened up new vistas of energy amongst us. Thank you for your invaluable contribution, and we are all fortunate enough and inspired by your great words, sir. I am deeply privileged to convey my gratitude to our most respected principal, Dr. M. Lakshmanasamy, sir, for being a strong pillar of support and reference in all our endeavors. Thank you for your kind words, sir. With great pleasure, I accord my sincere thanks to Dr. S. Palsamy, sir, Dean R&D, for his enthusiastic support and encouragement in organizing this wonderful event. Thank you, sir. I am obliged to thank and appreciate the great effort made by Dr. S.R. Madanshankar, sir, Dean Academics, for offering his ready response in conducting this momentous occasion and deliberating address. Thank you, sir. A gentle word of gratification is entitled to all the distinguished session speakers, panelists, chairpersons, and reporters who are about to share their views and address in the forthcoming sessions, technical sessions. Thank you all. I wish to record a word of special thanks to Dr. M. Murugeshan, sir, Controller of Examinations, Dr. V. Sujata, Madam, IQC Coordinator, and Dr. R. Sendulkumar, sir, Librarian, and various other deans of various disciplines for their wholehearted involvement in conducting this program in our esteemed institution. Thank you all. Organizing a 7 days webinar is not an easy task without the generous support rendered by our faculty members. I also accord my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the faculty members of Botany and Biotechnology Department and various organizing committee members for their wholehearted involvement in conducting this momentous occasion and making this a memorable one. Thank you all. Finally, let me put a word of sincere thanks and appreciation to all the heads of the various departments, faculty members, research scholars, and my dear students of our own institution and all the participants from various other institutions for their dynamic participation and generous support beyond their comfort zone. Thank you all. We have gathered here not only to celebrate success stories, but also to invite suggestions from all sectors of agriculture and organic farming to improvise ourselves than what it was yesterday. It is my sincere hope and prayers that this webinar will certainly regenerate strong resolutions to attain greater heights in the field of Indian traditional agriculture. back this occasion with a sense of fulfillment. At the closing note, I wish this program a resounding success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for gifting a wonderful day. We are only beginning. Yes, we'll catch up again tomorrow as we have more to share and learn. Thank you all. Thank you, dear students. Thank you, dignitaries, respected guests, and thank you, dear professors, the head of departments, everybody, for making this occasion a memorable one. We will meet again tomorrow, the same time. Thank you. And dear students, we have posted the feedback form link in the chat. Please fill the feedback forms before you leave the meeting. Thank you.